Philip Lee.
Deputy Speaker, in the interest of sporting values of keeping to time and efficient and delivering on goals, I will try to keep to my 5 minutes. It was originally going to be a 10-minute oration that I was terribly proud of as the new chairman of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Sport, but that's now obviously bitten the dust. We are a great sporting nation. I mean, we all remember the Super Saturday of 2012 Olympics, Archie Gemmill, 1978 versus Holland, the World Cup. I was fortunate enough to be at the semi-final last year. It's obvious that we're sports mad. We participate, 27 million of us do more than 2.5 hours a week on sport. And as a nation, sport, I think, ranks as probably the number one pastime outside of work and bringing up your children. And it always has troubled me somewhat that sport hasn't played a greater part in policy, actually, government policy. And when I had the pleasure of being a minister for those 2 glorious years at the Ministry of Justice, I embarked straight away on trying to introduce sport into the criminal justice system as much as possible. To say that I encountered some resistance, a degree of inertia at the Ministry of Justice when I suggested this would be an understatement. It took me 6 months to convene my first meeting on sport and its value in the criminal justice system. But what was fantastic about that meeting when it actually took place were the people who attended, people who already were deploying sport effectively in the criminal justice system, trying to help often vulnerable adults and young people, trying to turn their lives around. And there were such inspiring characters at that first meeting. David Dean used to be a director of Arsenal, who is embarked on a twinning project, twinning professional football clubs up and down the country with prisons, along with Jason Swetnam from HMPPS. John McAvoy, a very infamous armed robber from an armed robbing family, who discovered that he was an outstanding indoor rower whilst a prisoner, and set a load of world records and is now a Nike-sponsored endurance athlete. Jane Ashworth at Street Games and their work in the community trying to dissuade people from committing crime in the first place. These people were putting into practice something via their own hard work, charity, etc., which I think government should have been doing for a long, long, long time. Now, off the back of that first meeting, we had a second meeting, and then I managed to eke together the massive sum of £70,000 to commission a report into the value of sport in the criminal justice system, a report by Rosie Meek from Royal Holloway College. It's worth a read. Anybody's interested in the value of sport and the impact it can have, you should read it. In particular, the impact of contact sports, rugby, the work of Saracens at Feltham, and particularly boxing, which unfortunately the government, particularly Number 10, took a rather odd view of the introduction of controlled boxing into controlled circumstances, a view which is not backed by any evidence whatsoever, but is driven by the fear of silly headlines in tabloid newspapers. Boxing, undeniably, in the community, Fight for Peace being a particular example of a charity, is doing remarkable work in trying to dissuade young people from participating in a life of crime. Anthony Joshua is a classic example of someone who was on remand and actually turned his life around because of boxing. The list of examples of where sport has changed people's lives is long and continues to grow. And I think that if we can bring about a change whereby sport plays a significant part in a typical prisoner's life, I think we would be doing something remarkable. If we could change the environment in which prisoners find themselves, often locked up, often drugged up, etc., and take them out of that circumstance and put them into a sporting environment, I am convinced, utterly convinced, that we can address the rather woeful reoffending levels that we have in the adult male estate, particularly in the youth estate. So in summary, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm a passionate sports fan. I used to think that I was all right at sport as well once upon a time. It's made a huge impact upon my life, and I just wish that we could use the sporting values of fair play, of participation, of resilience, of hard work, of the pursuit of excellence, all of those things, in every aspect of government policy, in healthcare and education, but I feel particularly passionate about changing offenders' lives, giving them a second chance.
Jo Stevens.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. And it's